Now, Kwana, good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to Daybreak on Trust TV, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital, right here on Trust TV, the very show where we bring you all the analysis and perspectives on issues of national concern that you may be able to make informed decisions. My name is Ayuba Ilya. Thanks for joining.
Ekaro Otutuoma, good morning. Thank you for joining us. My name is Stella Iyaji.
And I hope that you would have seen your own dialects rolling on our screen as to what you used to say good morning. This is the show. Well, Stella, good morning once again.
Good morning, Ayuba.
We are counting down to the
governorship elections
and state assemblies election. The past few weeks have been very rigorous, given all that Nigerians have seen in terms of the presidential and national assembly elections, and it seems like we haven't moved past it just yet. Looking at the controversy surrounding it, yesterday we saw the PDP went on this rally to the Independent National Electoral Office.
And I wonder, I don't know, do you think that Nigerians are quite prepared for the governorship, and do you envisage a higher turnout of voters? Because for the presidential, it was quite abysmal, if you ask me.
So again, if you ask me if I see whether Nigerians are prepared for the governorship, the question that I'm even asking myself is, now that INEC is asking court to allow it to reconfigure the beavers, and those who lost in the election, the opposition, are saying, hey, you can't do that because we need to look at what happened in that presidential election. So what's the guarantee that the governorship is going to hold, given the fact that there are all these concerns?
No, INEC has assured that it will hold.
But the matter is in court.
Not that of the governorship.
I'm talking. It's the same beavers that will be used for the governorship.
Well, I guess we'll find out more in the coming days.
We'll see how it all pans out. We'll continue to follow up all the issues for you. Let's take a look at the headlines that we have this morning. Court grants Dogwa 500 million naira bail, bars him from Kano Guba election.
Lagos Guba poll. LP candidate Ross Vivo must not be killed, body judge.
Presidency, Atiku paid for ignoring G5's warning strike. G5's warning rather, and that's according to Wike.
Now let's take a look at the details. A federal high court in Kano has granted a 500 million naira bail to Alhassan Adodogwa, majority leader of the House of Representatives, following the widespread violence that led to death and arson in Tuduwada local government area of Kano during last week's election. The police had arraigned Dogwa before a magistrate's court on charges of arson and murder. The lawmaker was arraigned for criminal conspiracy, culpable homicide, arson, and illegal possession of firearms, among others. But counsel to the accused, Nuraini Jimo, applied for an ex parte order before Justice Mohammed Nasir Yunusa to grant the accused bail based on alleged infringement of his fundamental human rights and absence of jurisdiction by the magistrate court that had remanded the accused. Jimo contended that since the accused was charged with culpable homicide and illegal possession of firearms, a magistrate's court lacked jurisdictional power to remand Dogwa. The judge ordered that the suspect shall deposit his travel documents with the court's registry, which can be released upon request if needed for travel. The documents must be resubmitted upon return from the journey. The court further ruled that the lawmaker shall desist from visiting his constituency during the forthcoming gubernatorial and state House of Assembly elections.
All right, now, ahead of Saturday's gubernatorial election in Lagos, Chief Bode George, an elder statesman, has raised the alarm over the threat to life of the gubernatorial candidate of the Labour Party, Gbadebo Rhodes Vivo. Now, at a press conference held in Lagos, George, who is one of the leaders of the concerned group called Omoeko Pataki, said that there has been a threat over the life of Labour Party gubernatorial flag bearer in Lagos, hence the need for the group to voice out so that what happened to late Funshaw Williams will not repeat itself. The former PDP deputy national chairman, however, urged the security agencies to up their game ahead of the election, accusing the All Progressives Congress APC of putting in place a strategy to foster voters' apathy. He urged voters to exercise their franchise without a modicum of fear, calling on the Independent National Electoral Commission to ensure transparency of the exercise.
Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State says the inability of the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, to heed the warning of the G5 cost him the presidential election. Speaking at Okomoko community while inaugurating a road in Eche local government area on Monday, Wike said what befell PDP was avoidable if the national leadership of the party had heeded the appeals and demands to adopt the principle of equity, fairness, and justice. He said it was now settled that the presidency had returned to the South after the North completed its 8 years at the presidency. Wike said while others were demonstrating against the outcome of the presidential elections, he was in Rivers inaugurating projects and satisfying the needs of the people. The governor explained that there was no time he ever criticized either the Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi or the All Progressives Congress, APC, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu during the campaigns.
All right, now some of the packages that we have this morning. World leaders gathered in Qatar at the 5th UN Conference on Least Developed Countries to evolve strategies that will accelerate sustainable development and unlock the full potential of the world's most vulnerable countries. On the sidelines of the conference, Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari has held bilateral meetings with two countries in a bid to strengthen partnerships that could lead to mutual gains and prosperity. Kehinde Amodu reports from Doha.
Nigeria may not be one of the least developed countries in the world, but as a developing country, it shares some of the challenges being faced by LDCs. For one, the crippling debt burden pushed by the global financial system was created by wealthy countries to serve their own interests. It is extremely unfair that LDCs must pay high interest rates that can be 8 times higher than those in developed countries. If Nigeria is not one of the LDCs, its neighbor, Chad, is.
Chad is a least developed country, and like all the least developed countries, there are real developmental challenges. And of course, Nigeria taking part in this conference is to show solidarity with least developed countries, and also to build the base of support amongst all those countries.
This bilateral meeting is to seek cooperation with Nigeria on certain issues, including the partnership to quell insecurity on the borders both countries share.
He talked about the multinational joint task force, and there's going to be joint operations this year with the Nigerian contingent, the Chadian contingent, and the Cameroonian contingent. So helping to reinforce the alliance in the fight against terrorism in our sub-region.
Further upfield, Iran is seeking cooperation with Nigeria to help develop trade ties in a bid to find relief from the crippling sanctions imposed by Western nations. The proposal is to have a binational commission at the highest level in both countries. But such a collaboration could create huge international reverberations.
They have these issues. There are international sanctions against Iran, but Nigeria is a non-aligned country. We have our independent foreign policy that is not, we're not dictated to by any other country. And I think Iran understands that, and understands that as a big country that is not dependent on any other country and not easily influenced by other countries, that Nigeria is a country that they can aspire to have closer relations with.
The UN Conference on Least Developed Countries aims at channeling international assistance to the most vulnerable countries in the world, where the aid is most needed to help put them back on the path towards prosperity. But it seems countries are not waiting for the Doha Action Plan, but are going ahead to form their own alliances and define their own realities. On the President's entourage in Doha, Kehinde Amodu, Trust TV News.
All right. Still from Doha, President Muhammadu Buhari has criticized the current structure of the global financial system, which places an unsustainable external debt burden on the most vulnerable countries. The Nigerian president cautioned world leaders that the huge debt burdens would make it extremely difficult for LDCs to meet the 2030 agenda for 17 sustainable development goals. Kende Amodu completes the report.
There is a growing consensus that the developed countries have skewed the global financial system against developing and vulnerable countries of the world. Statements coming out of this conference seem rather helpless, as all they do is appeal to these developed countries who by their actions have worked against the resolve to close the gap of inequality in the world.
We don't have a moment to lose. Least developed countries, amidst a rising tide of crisis, uncertainty, climate chaos, and deep global injustice. They are unable to keep pace with lightning speed technological change. Systems are stretched.
But it seems the Nigerian president has a solution that could work if adopted by countries at this conference. He is proposing that developed and developing nations should grant duty-free and quota-free market access for products from the world's 46 least developed countries to ensure their integration into regional and global value chains.
It is the hope of Nigeria that at the end of this conference, the Doha Program of Action will lead to the increase of exports from least developed countries through the facilitation of their access to foreign markets in line with World Trade Organization Trade Facilitation Agreement.
The question to ask is if this proposal can work.
Well, I think it shows certainly that Nigeria is a major country in the world, and diversifying our partnerships around the world, and this is very, very important in a globalized world to have the support of different groupings, and the least developed countries groupings is a very important group of countries, and so his presence here I think is an opportunity for Nigeria to increase its not just its visibility but its partnerships.
The UN Secretary General has captured the dismal situation in the least developed countries of the world, where health, education and social protection infrastructure are getting worse by the day. Sadly, these extreme conditions are being replicated in countries that term themselves as developing. In the face of such deep challenges, the UN chief is insisting that vulnerable countries of the world need a revolution of support from all stakeholders. On the president's team to Qatar, Kehinde Amodu, Trust TV News.
Now, the need for residents of Kaduna to shun acts that are capable of disrupting the peace and unleashing violence during the forthcoming governorship election has been stressed. Members of Makera community in Kaduna South local government area made their appeal at a community meeting with women and traditional leaders to sensitize residents on the need to maintain peace in communities during the election. The report.
Makera is a community where people of different religions and ethnicity reside. As president of the community got to the poll this Saturday, traditional leaders and women groups at this meeting in the palace of the district head of Kakuri resolved to work with community members to ensure a peaceful election.
They should come quietly to the polling units with their voters card, come and cast your vote. Vote the person of your choice. If you do it, go back to your house and sit down because you have representation at the polling units. There's no need to fight. There's no need to quarrel. And there's no need to force anybody to vote somebody that you wish. Don't even force your wife. Allow her. There's no point for us to continue to fight over for anything. Those politicians, they have, go around and did their own campaign. So they have done their campaign. Let them go and sit down and pray for the best.
In every election, women have been known to come out in large numbers to cast their vote. Hence, they are seen as critical stakeholders whose contributions can promote peace in the electoral process. The Jakadia Makera district is taking advantage of this by appealing to the women to contribute to ensuring peaceful elections at the district.
Women all over the world are known to be home builders, like we all know. Nigerians, I will tell the women, do what you know is right as a mother for this nation, for the sake of your children, your unborn children. Vote right. Make sure it's a peaceful election day. In your units as a mother, if you see anything that will instigate quarrel, as a mother, peacefully calm the situation. Do not ignite violence.
The women pledge to support INEC, security agencies and other stakeholders to ensure a violence-free election in the state. Bella Musa, Trust TV News Kaduna.
Still on election matters, the opposition New Nigeria People's Party in Kano State says it has uncovered a plot to disrupt conduct of Saturday's governorship and House of Assembly elections. Chieftains of the party in Kano at a news conference said they raised the alarm to alert security operatives to provide adequate security for the elections. Trust TV's correspondent Idris Jibrin completes the report.
These chieftains of the New Nigeria People's Party in Kano are meeting for the first time since the conduct of the Presidential and National Assembly's election to raise concerns ahead of the forthcoming gubernatorial election. They believed that the election is about to be disrupted by the ruling All Progressive Congress, whom they accuse of hiring thugs to ensure that the election did not hold.
We are aware that thousands of bandits from Chad and Niger republics, as well as from Katsina, Kaduna, Bauchi and Gombe states, have been hired and brought into Kano State by the Gandujia administration to be used for the disruption of the elections. The DSS in Kano and the Nigerian police in Kano are aware of this. These bandits, brandishing heavy weapons, including guns and machetes, are already in different locations across the 44 local government councils in the state. Nigerian government and indeed all Nigerians should be aware that for any breach of the peace on election day, Governor Ganduje and his gang, including the Kano director of DSS, who ought to have retired from service over a year ago, must be held personally responsible.
According to these people, the New Nigeria People's Party is equally aware of a plan by the ruling APC to bribe some electoral and presiding officers across the 44 local government areas of Kano State with a view to, among other things, delay the delivery of electoral materials in Kano.
We are also aware that local government chairmen in all the 44 local government councils in the state have already convened a meeting with all ad hoc staff of INEC in their local governments with the sole intention of compromising them. Among the instructions given to this ad hoc staff include A. Delaying the election process in whatever way possible. B. Deliberate disruption of the BVAS machine and making accreditation impossible in targeted polling units. C. Destroying resources in polling units that the ruling party is losing. D. Ensuring that used ballot papers are smuggled into the ballot boxes to ensure overvoting and cancellation of results in our stronghold.
Meanwhile, the Conference of the Northern State Civil Society Network is accusing INEC of losing its credibility following what the conference called incidences of violence and failure to transmit results electronically during the just concluded Presidential and National Assembly elections.
We are really very much aware. The most unfortunate thing is it's not only about mobilizing the talks to actually disrupt the exercise, the conduct of the election, but the most unfortunate thing is we learn that some of the politicians have gone far off, even smuggling some people from outside the state. That is the most unfortunate thing. I have not seen this kind of desperation. I have never seen this kind of desperation. Then this is to tell you that it means in politics is a lucrative business. It means this is to tell you that it's not about the service. It's not about serving humanity, but rather about serving self.
While Nigerians await the upcoming gubernatorial and state assembly elections, the Northern State Civil Society assures that the network will do all it could to ensure that the lives and property of the electorate are equally protected before, during and after the elections. Idris Jibrin, Trust TV News, Kano.
Now, as the Naira crisis continues to met untold hardship on Nigerians, some Benue residents are of the view that the President Muhammadu Buhari is to be blamed for his alleged failure to acknowledge the independence of the judiciary. Jimmy Azande spoke to some residents and filed in this report.
The March 3rd judgment of the Supreme Court that restored the use of the old 200, 500 and 1,000 Naira notes until 31st December 2023 was received with a sigh of relief from many quarters. However, hope seemed to be dashed as this is not happening, as residents said the president's silence since the court ruling presents him as one who is not conscious of the suffering of the masses.
The people are complaining that here the central bank is not yet authorized the commercial bank to start disbursement of the old currency. The Supreme Court is the highest court of the land and need to be respected. If judgment have to be respected. The judgment on which was given on Friday, I expected that the central bank should heed to it and allow people to use the old currency so that the suffering people are going through should be reduced.
Banks in the state say they are waiting for an official statement from the central bank. Hence, they have refused to release the old notes to customers.
Nigerians were at loss now because we felt that the institution of the state will protect the country. When the central bank came out with the policy, we applaud it, we are accepted, we are happy with it. Greatest surprise, the highest court has given judgment. How many days the president has not even made any comment, has seen nothing happen, and he has rather traveled out of the country to UN. I am wondering, to represent Nigeria on what basis? If institution like Supreme Court has given a judgment and the president could not even see any reason to make any comments about it and could travel out for how many days, then it seems democracy and the country indeed is heading to a doom now.
People are doing politics, not policy, because the country highest body, which is Supreme Court, have given an order, which I think even the Mr. President is supposed to respect it, but he could not. He traveled abroad, he made Nigeria a suffering, including the poor ones who did not even know anything about this issue of this currency. I don't think it's a better thing they're doing to Nigeria. We are just suffering. We need to question that thing very well so that the whole world will understand our view.
At the time of this report, an official statement is being awaited from the central bank or the president on the policy. In the meantime, the cash crisis has continued to cause untold hardship to small business owners and Nigerians who depend on cash for daily needs.
Thank you, Jimmy Azande, for that report. We'll now go for a very short break. When we return, we'll look at what the newspapers are saying. Please stay.
Now, as part of efforts to support Africa's goal of strengthening...
Now, looking at the activity chart, as you can see right here, a total volume of 130...
Created a Boko Haram crisis that at that time was restricted to Yobe.
How secured are they? You can see security men with blood.
This is the road leading up to the...
If you look at England squad, you are looking at EPL, you are looking at their names. You are not looking at...
TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Where you find that they look like the same.
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
All right, thank you for staying with us. It's Daybreak on Trust TV. Time for us to take a look at the dailies on Daybreak. We have Emmanuel Osemeka. He is a public affairs analyst to review some of the stories with us here in the studio. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right, so let's begin with the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. The lead story here says, Naira crisis. It says queues for cash persist. Customers bribe bank officials. The writer says banks pay old notes in Kano, Abuja, and Ibadan. Customers decry poor electronic services. You'll find all the details on page 4 when you pick the Daily Trust newspaper. Now, also you find above the lead story, many killed in Benue farmers herders clashes, and that's on page 6. IGP puts CPs on alert for post-election crisis. That's on page 26. Dogwa granted 500 million naira bail barred from Kano governorship poll, and that's on page 5. Above, well, the pictorial there shows you the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, alongside other leaders of the PDP who went on a protest yesterday to INEC office. It says presidential poll, Atiku Tambuwal lead PDP's protest to INEC. The footnote, you'd find LG to spend 869 billion naira on 2023 census, says minister on page 19. 10 family members returning from wedding die in auto crash on page 8. And then you have also 10th NAS race for leadership hot up on page 7. So these are the main stories on the Daily Trust newspaper this morning.
Now let's take a look at the Blueprint newspaper. It has a lead story that says, Presidency, you're paying for ignoring G5's warning, Wike tells Atiku. And we have a rider that says, ex-VP Tambuwal lead protest to INEC, demand fresh election. The next rider, retire from politics honorably, Tinubu campaign council tells ex-vice president. Then the third rider describes PDP's protest as a new low. And beneath the pictorial there we have polls. Police to arrest 203 in 185 incidents, recovered 18 arms. And beneath that, Ohaneze counters fifth columnist, insists Obi won presidential polls. Sit at home, 1 killed, 2 buses, 5 tricycles set ablaze in Enugu. We also have alleged murder, Reps Majority Leader Dogwa gets bail. Still on the Blueprint, INEC to appeal court allows reconfigure beavers for Saturday polls. 6 variation of inspection over Atiku Obi's restraining order. We also have Supreme Court affirms Dauda Lawal as Zamfara PDP Guba candidate. And we have committed 291 billion to the 2023 census. This is from the federal government. Beneath that, 10th NAS, North Central APC stakeholders jostle for speaker. These are the major stories on the Blueprint newspaper for today.
All right, now on the Nation newspaper, we have the lead story that talks about Naira's scarcity lingers despite Supreme Court judgment. You also have no cash at banking hall, ATM points. You see banks await CBN's directive on old notes. INEC to reconfigure beavers for governorship assembly elections. CBN tackles IMF's claim on Anchor borrowers loan. 98 senators elect, 325 reps elect to get COR, that's certificate of return, today. Also, APC, PDP clash over presidential poll results. Olanipekun, 49 others to defend Tinubu's mandate. And so these are the main stories on the Nation today.
Over now to the Guardian newspaper, which has a lead story that says, Atiku leads supporters to INEC, threatens daily protests. And the first rider, INEC owes allegiance to Nigerians, not any political party, says Okoye. Retire from politics, go to Dubai, stop embarrassing yourself, Tinubu tells Atiku. And beneath the pictorial there, we have diphtheria kills 61,783 others. Kills 61,700, kills 61 persons, 783 others hospitalized in Kano. And we have waiting game as lawyers argue CBN's compliance with Supreme Court verdict. And just beneath the masthead, we have imperative to prosecute election offenders and violators. Then we also have uncertainty over next election as INEC seeks to reconfigure beavers. Senate presidency, APC tips southeast. And we have lawyer demands income expenditure details of INEC on electoral process. These are the major stories on The Guardian for today.
And on the Nation newspaper, the lead story talks about Supreme Court order on old notes. It says, banks in partial compliance begins skeletal recirculation. A few banks pay old 500, 1,000 naira on Monday. Others await directives as Emefiele keeps mum. You have also most ATMs remain dry. Skeptical bank customers, traders reject old notes from banks. You also would find INEC challenges Atiku Obi's suit on beavers. Don't handle education like Buhari, ASU tells Tinubu. Government seeks 327 billion naira donor funding for census. Atiku vows to extend protest, demands result cancellation. You also have other stories there. Whitney, Chrisland seeks autopsy review. Inquest begins April 4th. 50 feared killed as suspected herdsmen invade Benue communities. 203 hoodlums arrested during presidential poll, says the police. You also would find on Saturday, March 11. Well, that's a promo. So these are the main stories on the Punch newspaper this morning.
Now let's take a look at this day newspaper. It has a lead story that says INEC's application to court to reconfigure beavers raising integrity questions. And the first rider says commission harps on need to reset devices before their deployment for governorship, state houses of assembly polls. And beneath that, we have the pictorial of the black uniform protest which was led by the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar. And above that, we have PDP. Ample evidence shows INEC's deliberate complicity to rig presidential election. Says Commission Deceived Nigerians knowingly deactivated beavers. APC dismisses opposition parties' protest. And just above the masthead, we have Toye Co pledges to create 230,000 jobs in first 100 days in office. And we also have banks resume issuance of old 500 naira, 1,000 naira notes to customers. These are the major stories on this day newspaper for today.
All right, now we'll take a look at perspectives to this analysis. Like we told you, we have Emmanuel Osemeka. Thank you again for joining us on Daybreak.
It's my pleasure.
Quite a lot of issues that have lingered till this moment, specifically the issue of the cash crunch. Now we are seeing court judgments, and then we are kind of not even sure what exactly is happening. While in one breath, we hear that banks have started dispensing the cash. In another breath, we hear that some banks are awaiting, the directives from the Central Bank of Nigeria. So how does this all go for us?
Well, it's very unfortunate that we are at this, should I call it crossroad? I think the major challenge is with the fact that those who took the federal government to the Supreme Court, citing conflict between the state and the federal government as the parameter for that case on the issue of monetary policy. They clearly knew what they were doing because this was a purely political issue, and they know clearly that if they had joined the central bank, that case would have died immediately. But they were clever by half by just suing the federal government with the hope of creating conflict between the federal and of course the state government so that the Supreme Court can assume jurisdiction. However, the Supreme Court has given its judgment, and one of the reasons why I feel that it's a bit, the federal government is a bit slack in issuing the directive to CBN and of course CBN by extension. If you heard the Attorney General when he was asked, he said he's not competent to advise the federal government on monetary policy. So that's why you have this kind of quagmire, and CBN will tell you that there is no direct directive from the Supreme Court to them. But I know that over time they will get over it, and of course that judgment will be obeyed. But the reality is that everybody knows clearly that on issues of monetary policy, it rests squarely with the CBN.
Well, for how long will Nigerians have to wait really for this? Because, Nigerians, for many people, they don't have access to the old notes. Absolutely. They don't have access to the new notes.
Yes.
And this has continued to linger.
On businesses.
You think about the impact of this on businesses and the lives of people generally. That's a huge problem. And, what really should people be doing?
Well, I mean, there's nothing anybody can do. This now rests squarely, on the table of the president, because the directive has been given to the federal government and the federal government and its agencies. But of course, that's like a vague, pronouncement. So, but of course, it's the president that has to direct the central bank to begin to issue out the old 500 and 1,000.
All right, Mr. Emeka, while we're waiting for that, this lead story on the Daily Trust says, yes, queues for cash persist, customers bribe bank officials. For some customers to even gain access into the banks now, they have to bribe, because they are not able to go. Yes. And before you answer, I'd like you to take it side by side. Bank must, the editorial of the Daily Trust today, which is banks must address poor digital services. Now, some persons in this story that went to the bank that were unable to go to, and they had to bribe, they went because they had made internet transactions which were either declined or bounced back, or So why this is happening? Banks have shut their doors to customers. Then customers cannot operate internet services easily. So how do we get out of all of this?
So, the last time we talked about this here, I clearly, talked about why that banks has to invest, in the infrastructure if this cashless policy must work, seamlessly. Because you cannot go into cashless policy with this epileptic or even non-existing infrastructure. And we discussed then, and I clearly stated that the banks were really not ready for this massive 100% cashless policy. However, the information I have, like for myself, I also have the same challenge. I have a lot of transactions that declined, and I'm waiting for reversal. So I have to, if I get to the bank, if you don't know anybody in the bank, they won't even open the door for you, because banks are scared that people are going to come destroy their properties and all that. But what I understood clearly is that, like for a particular bank, I understood that for a whole week, they were only giving 300,000 naira to give to customers. Banks 300,000 is something one person goes to withdraw. Then you give a particular branch 300,000. That's, to what do you expect that bank to do? So sometimes also is to clearly understand where the problem is. The CBN is not issuing out money as it is today. And I recall that I clearly stated that one of the major reasons why there's this deliberate crunch is because of the elections. And it's been proven over time. If you look at the parameters for for the votes that happened in 2025, money was around number 7. So yes, there were vote buying.
But now that the presidential and national assembly elections are over, one would think that
you still have a major election.
But why maybe they are waiting for a directive or something?
Yes.
The banks were not just there for withdrawals.
Yes.
So why wouldn't they look for a way around it, so that people who have genuine concerns, the genuine problems, can actually come and make their complaints and then be attended to? Because as it is, people that have problems, that it's not like they're coming to the banks to withdraw money. They can't even get that service,
get solutions to
their problems at this point.
But basically, that when we have very weak regulators in the country, one of the major challenges of CBN over the years is the fact that they have actually been very weak in their regulatory responsibilities. And some of the challenges we've seen with the banks, the deposit money banks, is the fact that the CBN hasn't really done their job properly. Because if CBN did their job properly, the monies they released to the bank initially was enough to circulate. But unfortunately, the banks began to sell the monies to politicians, and as a result, the politicians mopped up all the cash.
Emmanuel,
yes,
we have another issue here. Regardless of the court orders that we've seen that somehow the old notes seem to have lost street acceptability.
Absolutely.
Do you see this as a problem? Going forward?
Of course.
Because right now, even with the court order, it seems like a big risk for people to go to the bank, get the old cash, and then when you hit the streets, you are not sure who will take the cash from you.
So the reality is that I know people who have the old notes, a few of the old notes, and they go to the market to buy, and the market people say they will not take it. What will happen over time is the fact that the moment the president gives the directive to the CBN, just the way he gave the directive on the 200 naira old notes, once he gives that directive, that legitimacy will return. Why? Everybody knows clearly that when it comes to issue of monetary policy, it rests squarely with the CBN. You cannot legislate monetary policy. Monetary policy is an economic issue, and there are agencies of government vested with that responsibilities. And that is why you see that it looks as if the Supreme Court judgment was a bit of, people took it with a pinch of salt. Yes, it's a Supreme Court. After Supreme Court, you appeal to God. But the reality is that somebody has to execute that judgment. And who is the person to execute the judgment? The executive arm of government.
Emmanuel, I'll still take you back to the problem with the internet services.
Yes.
When this cashless policy was announced, it came with a lot of merits. Absolutely. It was going to tackle corruption and vote buying and even banditry and all of that. But for it to be effective, the banks needed to be on board.
Right.
Now we're hearing that the banks did not have the capacity. Didn't they know that this was coming, and didn't they know that there was going to be, traffic, and why were they not prepared for it?
Well, we can't divorce the banks, we can't divorce the CBN, we cannot divorce the telecom companies. So they are all interwoven. Like I keep, repeating, the banks have a responsibility. They are there for business. They are business people who deal with financial activities. And as a result, they ought to have known, because we had more than 3 months before this kicked in. By then, they ought to have increased their bandwidth or what have you, to be able to accommodate the influx of, online or e-transactions that will take place. But unfortunately, they didn't do that. Today, you talk to the bank, they will tell you, oh, it's a network issue. You go to the network, they ask the network providers, they will tell you, no, it's not our problem. So it all boils down to regulatory framework. Because if there is consequences for wrongdoing, if there is consequences for dropping the ball, definitely you will see things work. And that is also what happened to this our electoral issues. The issue till tomorrow, INEC is yet to even explain to you and I why IREV, where we spent billions, hundreds of billions on, didn't work.
So talking about that, the electoral issues, we also have other stories here, and one of them is the fact that the Independent National Electoral Commission is requesting to be allowed to reconfigure the beavers ahead of the governorship elections, and that's certainly not something that the opposition is taking lightly. There's been, in fact, protests, as a matter of fact, and the PDP, to be specific, says that they will continue to protest. So the dust is yet to settle as far as the presidential and National Assembly election are concerned, and we are looking to go to the polls again for the governorship and state assembly. What do you make of this?
I actually feel that there is every possibility, there's every likelihood that the March 11 election will be shifted.
Why do you say that?
Because, for example, there is already a judgment, restricting INEC from tampering with the materials used for the presidential election. And it's not just one judgment, it's judgment that is in two parts for the two opposing political parties who are laying claims. One is saying cancel, and we have evidence that you should cancel. The other one is saying, I won the election and I will prove it to you. Now, if you take a look at the case between APC versus INEC and Adeleke in Osun State election, you will see clearly that judgment came as a result of beavers, as a result of findings from the beavers. Now, if INEC, for any reason, gets that judgment, which I don't see them getting, because they're going to the Court of Appeal to say, can you reverse yourself on the order you've given? Because we need these beavers for this election. So the question now is, the order we gave, have you complied with it in the first place? The evidence that is attached to the beavers, where do you intend to keep it? How do you intend that the applicants will get access to those materials or those data? What is the plan? We are yet to see that. Probably INEC has better explanation to give on that. But if they do not have that, as you know, if they do not have an alternative, probably they've copied it out or what have you and all that, they will not be able to get this.
Because I was going to ask that INEC, I'm sure INEC knows the importance of the beavers.
Definitely.
I mean, the beavers showed in Oshun that there was overvoting, at least at the tribunal level. And so if INEC at this point is asking to reconfigure, don't you think that maybe it has taken out that information, that maybe taking out the necessary information from the presidential election, so that maybe what he wants is a clean slate for the governorship? Don't you think?
Well, you see, this whole thing, the case in court, and the judiciary will tell us precisely what to do. One of the things you must understand is that the Oshun case is a bit confusing. Because when APC applied to INEC to get the information from the beavers, it was downloaded and given to them, howbeit incomplete. And subject to that, they went to court and filed their case. PDP went to INEC and applied for same. It was given to them. Completely, what was given to them is not the same as what was given to APC, howbeit still incomplete. Now, when the two of them presented the information they got from INEC that's downloaded from the beavers, the both information was not correct. And based on that report, because the two reports came from INEC, they decided to look at the beavers. And when they look at the beavers versus what was given, that's when they came to that conclusion of overvoting. Now, when they get to Court of Appeal, we will see how it pans out eventually. Now, if you follow the trend of that case, you will see that tampering with the beavers is going to be a very big problem. So I believe strongly that most likely, this election might be shifted by either a week or two to enable them, come up with a more plausible. Don't forget that if you go to the IREV as we speak today, it's yet to completely upload all the results. And you can see that results are being uploaded, some results have still been taken out and all that. So there's a whole lot of things going on that needs to first of all be taken care of, if we must find justice. But if INEC have, like you tried to postulate, have already cleaned out the beavers, well, that's a different challenge.
Because except they'll have another set of beavers to now use for the governorship.
Most likely that might be the other option. After all, we saw some that was got removed from certain houses, but we're yet to get the full details.
Okay, well, we'll see how that plays out. Also, the protest yesterday by the PDP, a lot of people are saying, well, why protest to INEC? To what end would you be protesting to INEC? After all, INEC is the one that made the announcement and announced the final results, and it clearly told you to go to the court if you are aggrieved. So why take your protest to them?
So I think the PDP's protest is from what I understand, I gathered, is in twofolds. If you recall, during the coalition, the PDP agent reminded INEC chairman, who is the chief returning officer, that according to the 2022 Electoral Act, that agents are, so if the agents have an objection regarding the collation, that the chairman had, the right by law to take a look at that complaint. And he said, the INEC chairman, I quote him, said, let's complete the process, then we will review. I don't know if you recall. The agent insisted, and it was as if each and every one of them, every agent of the political party, seemed to have agreed with the PDP agent at the time. But the INEC chairman insisted that let the process, let's finish the collation, then we can review.
I also recall a scenario where someone suggested from among the party agents that kind of reminding INEC that it has the powers to review the concerns.
Definitely.
Going by the new Electoral Act. In response, the chairman said, well, I like the idea, the suggestion that, we could review that. So, yeah, I remember.
And remember, the law says they have 7 days to review. Unfortunately, the moment the collation was completed, the INEC chairman announced a winner. And the moment that winner was announced, INEC had no powers anymore. INEC had transferred that power to the tribunal. But if he had gone back to take a look at what those complaints were, they may have made some corrections where necessary. For example, if we look at the reports from the civil society and the African Union and the EU, the results they got from the people unit, and of course, now corroborated by the beavers. If you take a look at the reverse result, the reverse result on the IREV is in tandem with the results that the civil society group talked about. And it's completely different from what INEC collated and announced.
All right, but what a lot of people are saying is that once INEC has announced the result, the next step is the court.
Definitely.
Because, and then there were some people on social media were saying yesterday that if care is not taken, as you know, in this country, some people could hijack this kind of protest and, it could escalate into something else.
Well, I think this is where most of us get it wrong. Protest is a right. You can't take it away from anybody. It is your constitutional right to protest, but it has to be peaceful. It has to be within the ambit of the law. The law even, mandates the police, the security agencies, to provide security for every genuine protest. So that's the truth. So that's why PDP is protesting. They are protesting the fact that if you are, as an umpire, as a fair and transparent umpire, you have to be fair to everybody. If we had a complaint that is allowed by law and you are mandated by law to take a look at that complaint before announcing, why bypass that law, and why fool us that you would do it and ended up not doing? That's the reason for the protest.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your perspectives. Quite a lot of issues really to chew. Stories on 203 hoodlums arrested by the police from the elections that we've seen. Quite an interesting story. I would have loved for you to touch on that, but we couldn't. We
Time
cannot
is never
proceed.
our friend.
Yeah, we can proceed with that. Well, thank you so much. We look forward to having you again on the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, we'll take a short break now, and then when we return, Daybreak will continue on top of the hour. Join us again.
But in a situation where you find that a look like the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
Trust TV.
All right, welcome back. It's Daybreak on Trust TV, reaching you from the nation's capital in Abuja. Now, we'll be taking a look at the headlines again for those who are just joining. We're an hour into the show already. So, This way goes the headlines. The court grants Adodogwa 500 million naira bail, bars him from Kano Guba election.
Lagos Guba poll. LP candidate Ross Vivo must not be killed, body judge.
Presidency. Atiku paid for ignoring G5's warning, says Wike.
Now let's take a look at the details. A federal high court in Kano has granted 500 million naira bail to Hassan Adodogwa, majority leader of the House of Representatives, following the widespread violence that led to deaths and arson in Tudunwada local government area of Kano during last week's election. The police had arraigned Dogwa before a magistrate's court on charges of arson and murder. The lawmaker was arraigned for criminal conspiracy, culpable homicide, arson, and illegal possession of firearms, among others. But counsel to the accused, Nureni Jimo, applied for an ex parte order before Justice Muhammad Nasir Yunusa to grant the accused bail based on an alleged infringement of his fundamental human rights and absence of jurisdiction by the magistrate court that had remanded the accused. Jimo contended that since the accused was charged with culpable homicide and illegal possession of firearms, a magistrate's court lacked jurisdictional power to remand Dogwa. The judge ordered that the suspect shall deposit his travel documents with the court's registry, which can be released upon request if needed for travel. The documents must be resubmitted upon return from the journey. The court further ruled that the lawmaker shall desist from visiting his constituency during the forthcoming gubernatorial State House of Assembly elections.
Right now, ahead of the Saturday's gubernatorial election in Lagos, Chief Bode George, an elder statesman, has raised the alarm over the threat to the life of the gubernatorial candidate of the Labour Party, Gbadebo Rhodes Vivo. At a press conference held in Lagos, George, who is one of the leaders of the concerned group called Omoeko Pataki, said that there has been a threat over the life of Labour Party gubernatorial flag bearer in Lagos, hence the need for the group to voice out so that what happened to the late Funshaw Williams will not repeat itself. The former PDP deputy national chairman, however, urged the security agencies to up their game ahead of the election, accusing the All Progressives Congress of putting in place a strategy to foster voters' apathy. He urged voters to exercise their franchise without a modicum of fear, calling on the Independent National Electoral Commission to ensure transparency of the exercise.
Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State says the inability of the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, to heed the warning of the G5 cost him the presidential election. Speaking at Okomoko Community Field while inaugurating a road in Eche local government area Monday, Wike said what befell PDP was avoidable if the national leadership of the party had heeded the appeals and demands to adopt the principle of equity, fairness, and justice. He said it was now settled that the presidency had returned to the South after the North completed its 8 years at the presidency. Wike said while others were demonstrating against the outcome of the presidential elections, he was in Rivers inaugurating projects and satisfying the needs of the people. The governor explained that there was no time he ever criticized either the Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi or the All Progressives Congress candidate Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu during the campaigns.
All right. Now, as the Naira crisis continues to met untold hardship on Nigerians, some Benue residents are of the view that President Muhammadu Buhari is to be blamed for his alleged failure to acknowledge the independence of the judiciary. Jimmy Azande spoke to some residents and files in this report.
The March 3rd judgment of the Supreme Court that restored the use of the old 200, 500, and 1,000 Naira notes on the 31st December 2023 was received with a sigh of relief from many quarters. However, hope seemed to be dashed as this is not happening, as residents said the president's silence since the court ruling presents him as one who is not conscious of the suffering of the masses.
People are complaining that the central bank is not yet authorized the commercial bank to start disbursement of the old currency. The Supreme Court is the highest court of the land and need to be respected. If judgment have to be respected. The judgment on which was given on Friday, I expected that the central bank should heed to it and allow people to use the old currency so that the suffering people are going through should be reduced.
Banks in the state say they are waiting for an official statement from the central bank. Hence, they have refused to release the old notes to customers.
Nigerians, we are at loss now because we felt that the institution of the state will protect the country. When the central bank came out with the policy, we applaud it, we are accepted, we are happy with it. Greatest surprise, the highest court has given judgment. How many days the president has not even made any comment, has seen nothing happen, and he has rather traveled out of the country to UN. I am wondering, to represent Nigeria on what basis? If institution like Supreme Court has given a judgment and the president could not even see any reason to make any comments about it and could travel out for how many days, then it seems democracy and the country indeed is heading to a doom now.
People are doing politics, not policy, because the country highest body, which is Supreme Court, have given an order, which I think even the Mr. President is supposed to respect it, but he could not. He traveled abroad, he made Nigeria a suffering, including the poor ones who did not even know anything about this issue of this currency. I don't think it's a better thing they're doing to Nigeria. We are just suffering. We need to question that thing very well so that the whole world will understand our view.
At the time of this report, an official statement is being awaited from the central bank or the president on the policy. In the meantime, the cash crisis has continued to cause untold hardship to small business owners and Nigerians who depend on cash for daily needs.
Thank you, Jimmy Azande, for that report. The need for Kaduna residents to shun acts capable of disrupting the peace and unleashing violence during the forthcoming governorship election has been stressed. Members of Makere community in Kaduna South local government area made the appeal at a community meeting with women and traditional rulers to sensitize residents on the need to maintain peace in communities during the election. Let's take the report.
Makera is a community where people of different religions and ethnicity reside. As president of the community got to the poll this Saturday, traditional leaders and women groups at this meeting in the palace of the district head of Kakuri resolved to work with community members to ensure a peaceful election.
They should come quietly to the polling units with their voters card, come and cast your vote. Vote the person of your choice. If you do it, go back to your house and sit down because you have representation at the polling units. There's no need to fight. There's no need to quarrel. And there's no need to force anybody to vote somebody that you wish. Don't even force your wife. Allow her. There's no point for us to continue to fight over for anything. Those politicians, they have, go around and did their own campaign. So they have done their campaign. Let them go and sit down and pray for the best.
In every election, women have been known to come out in large numbers to cast their vote. Hence, they are seen as critical stakeholders whose contributions can promote peace in the electoral process. The Zakadia Makera district is taking advantage of this by appealing to the women to contribute to ensuring peaceful elections at the district.
Women all over the world are known to be home builders, like we all know. Nigerians, I will tell the women, do what you know is right as a mother for this nation, for the sake of your children, your unborn children. Vote right. Make sure it's a peaceful election day. In your units as a mother, if you see anything that will instigate quarrel, as a mother, peacefully calm the situation. Do not ignite violence.
The women pledged to support INEC, security agencies and other stakeholders to ensure a violence-free election in the state. Bella Musa, Trust TV News, Kaduna.
All right, now the opposition New Nigeria People's Party in Kano State says that it has uncovered a plot to disrupt conduct of the Saturday's governorship and House of Assembly election in the state. Chieftains of the party in Kano at a news conference said that they raised the alarm to alert security agencies to provide adequate security for the elections. Trust TV's correspondent Idris Jibrin has more.
These chieftains of the New Nigeria People's Party in Kano are meeting for the first time since the conduct of the Presidential and National Assembly's election to raise concerns ahead of the forthcoming gubernatorial election. They believed that the election is about to be disrupted by the ruling All Progressive Congress, whom they accuse of hiring thugs to ensure that the election did not hold.
We are aware that thousands of bandits from Chad and Niger republics, as well as from Katsina, Kaduna, Bauchi and Gombe states, have been hired and brought into Kano state by the Gandujia administration to be used for the disruption of the elections. The DSS in Kano and the Nigerian police in Kano are aware of this. These bandits, brandishing heavy weapons, including guns and machetes, are already in different locations across the 44 local government councils in the state. Nigerian government and indeed all Nigerians should be aware that for any breach of the peace on election day, Governor Ganduje and his gang, including the Kano director of DSS, who ought to have retired from service over a year ago, must be held personally responsible.
According to these people, the new Nigeria People's Party is equally aware of a plan by the ruling APC to bribe some electoral and presiding officers across the 44 local government areas of Kano State with a view to, among other things, delay the delivery of electoral materials in Kano.
We are also aware that local government chairmen in all the 44 local government councils in the state have already convened a meeting with all ad hoc staff of INEC in their local governments with the sole intention of compromising them. Among the instructions given to this ad hoc staff include A. Delaying the election process in whatever way possible. B. Deliberate disruption of the BVAS machine and making accreditation impossible in targeted polling units. C. Destroying resources in polling units that the ruling party is losing. D. Ensuring that used ballot papers are smuggled into the ballot boxes to ensure overvoting and cancellation of results in our stronghold.
Meanwhile, the Conference of the Northern State Civil Society Network is accusing INEC of losing its credibility following what the conference called incidences of violence and failure to transmit results electronically during the just concluded presidential and National Assembly elections.
We are really very much aware. The most unfortunate thing is it's not only about mobilizing the talks to actually disrupt the exercise, the conduct of the election, but the most unfortunate thing is we learn that some of the politicians have gone far off, even smuggling some people from outside the state. That is the most unfortunate thing. I have not seen this kind of desperation. I have never seen this kind of desperation. Then this is to tell you that it means in politics is a lucrative business. It means this is to tell you that it's not about the service. It's not about serving humanity, but rather about serving itself.
While Nigerians await the upcoming gubernatorial and state assembly elections, the Northern State Civil Society assures that the network will do all it could to ensure that the lives and property of the electorate are equally protected before, during, and after the elections. Idris Jibrin, Trust TV News, Kano.
Thank you, Idris, for that report. The leadership of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and their supporters on Monday stormed the headquarters of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, in Abuja, demanding the cancellation of the 25th February presidential election. Led by its national chairman, Yosha Ayu, presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar, and the Director General of his campaign and Sokoto State Governor, Aminu Tambuwal, the party also submitted a petition to the commission that said the election was not credible. Let's take the report.
The protest, which brought PDP supporters across the country, was led by the party's presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar. The protesters walked from one of the party's offices in Abuja to the Independent National Electoral Commission headquarters to show their displeasure over the presidential elections result.
The candidate of our party, the People's Democratic Party, he represents millions of Nigerians who wish for a better governance, who pray for a nation where equal opportunities will be open to everyone, a nation where the people will be happy to enjoy governance through restructuring. All of the things that we sold in our campaign, they believed it, they accepted it, they assimilated it, and they came out en masse and in millions to vote. And unfortunately, even though we have on the evidence of the result sheets, a duplicate copy of all the result sheet given to our agent at the polling unit, yet if you see the INEC National Coalition, you would see where they would tabulate numbers, and when you come down to the total, different. You will see places where the names of individuals from different parts of the country, you will see where they will say there's a biometric taken on somebody, and yet the background of the biometric picture is somebody who snapped at the comfort of his house. You will see where they sow the stronghold of PDP and they create violence so that people will not come out to vote. These are some of the problems that has now informed our decision to come here and to tell the world democracy is under threat.
We're here for justice to prevail so that the mandate of His Excellency Atiku Abubakar will be given back to him.
INEC National Commissioner and Chairman of Information and Voters Committee, Festus Okoye, addressed the protesters on behalf of the commission.
I want to assure you that this commission is a listening commission. This commission is a public trust, and this commission belongs to the Nigerian people. Our allegiance is to the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. This commission does not have allegiance to any political party. We don't have any allegiance to any candidate. Our allegiance is to the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Whatever grievances there are, we will look into all those grievances. If there are grievances that can be redressed, we will redress those grievances. But I want to plead that all of us should continue to be peaceful, all of us should continue to respect the integrity of the commission and also the integrity of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The PDP is hopeful that the party will claim its mandate, which it alleges was wrongly given to the ruling party through the judiciary. Well, Samson, Trust TV News, Abuja.
All right, now we'll be taking a short breather, and then when we return, we'll take a look at our discussion on the program. Join us again. All right, thank you again. Now, to talk about what we have before us this morning, talking about all that has transpired in the aftermath of the announcement of the Presidential and National Assembly outcome by INEC, we have in the studio a member of the APC, Danjuma Mohammed, to react to what looked like an outright rejection of his party's victory at the presidential poll. Thank you so much for joining us, Danjuma, on the program this morning.
Thank you for having me here. Thank you.
Yes. Well, a lot really has happened since the announcement of the Presidential and National Assembly elections. A lot of people from the opposition, for instance, the PDP, the Labour Party, have rejected the election results. Yesterday we saw a protest by the PDP to say that, look, we are not accepting this result and we are calling for the cancellation of this result. How long do we have to deal with this, and how much of a burden is it for your party, given the fact that the major contenders in this poll are yet to concede to defeat?
Well, in the first place, I want to tell you that it's a tradition in this country, even though it is a negative tradition, that at the end of every election you have civil disputes here and there over the election, and also you have legal contestation. And also, having said that, if they are not doing this at all, then it will be un-Nigerian of them, not to have done this. We know that the election went free and fair. In fact, it is one of the elections that will go down in history as the fairest and the freest in this country. And whatever they are talking about has to do with their limited knowledge of the provisions of the Act that governs the electoral process in this country.
Mr. Danjuma, you talked about free and fair election, but that is what the two major parties that are contesting the results as they are saying it is not free and fair. And one of the reasons they have given is the inability of the INEC to upload the result as was promised by INEC before the elections.
INEC actually uploaded the results, but is it what they expect?
In real time, while the elections were ongoing.
In good time. And the provision
is not good time, Mr. Danjuma.
In real time and in good time, they are different.
Sorry, in real time. In real time is not simultaneously. You see, INEC was just being innovative by bringing out that as an additional, kind of provision for transparency as uploading. It is not a provision of the Electoral Act. But while doing that, INEC too must be conscious of the fact that it should not be seen to have breached or encouraged a breach of the Section 25 of the Electoral Act that exclusively confines the right and powers to declare and announce election results on the returning officers. So you cannot expect INEC to begin to receive and simultaneously post before declaration. It will be a gross contravention of that act. But INEC has its own wisdom to a kind of, to determine what real time means. But in my own wisdom, I would say real time is within the period allowed for, electoral arbitration. I mean, you have 7 days within which results can be announced, reviewed, and complaints can be received by INEC and all that. But having said that, what we are saying is that the parties have agents. That's a provision. That is, in fact, that is a limit the Electoral Act gave the political parties in terms of monitoring the results. If you don't trust your agent, then you are on your own. That is your problem.
So here is it now. We've watched on live TV where party agents raised complaints about certain results in some places. And they were told to wait for the collation to be done with. In some instances, they were not really listened to. They were not, the concerns or the complaints that they are talking about was not looked into. Instead, what happened was that after the whole collation, the party agents were told to go to court. This is a commission that has the powers, like you mentioned, to review concerns raised. But in this case, we didn't see that happen.
No, they couldn't have taken complaints at that point because the complaints they are raising are complaints meant for post-election procedure. Go to the Electoral Act, it's very clear. Once elections are on, particularly at that very, very delicate stage, because those who designed the law envisaged the fact that politicians and political parties could be crafty and mischievous to even bring delays through complaints and all that. So all that are post-election procedure. The INEC chairman, who happens to be the chief returning officer, could not have jettisoned.
Did the provision says that election will be declared before complaints will be looked into?
Exactly. All the complaints are meant to come under the procedure. That is post-election procedure, not while the declaration is on. I mean, it's too crucial. It's too crucial for the electoral process.
All right.
In fact, if you go back because of what happened in June 12th, the powers of INEC, to ensure that it is not distracted by any of these complaints is solidified by the Constitution and by the Electoral Act. You cannot come from anywhere, not even a court injunction at that point.
All right, Mr. Danjuma.
Yes.
INEC made a promise on several occasions that they were going to upload this result. They made this promise.
Yeah, exactly.
As a member of the APC, even the APC, people want to know why it didn't happen. Even the APC, are you not concerned? Don't you want to know why this didn't happen?
They did it. They uploaded immediately after that is the winner of the election was declared. The essence of uploading, like I said, already the Electoral Act is very clear that all results be entered into the National Electronic Register for Election Results. That is the name. It's supposed to be an electronic file, a database, an electronic repository, for all these results. That was the limit of the Electoral Act. But like I said, INEC simply went ahead, to bring in that innovation of uploading to the portal. Fine. The whole idea of uploading to the portal is to a kind of further notify or take election results to the knowledge of the public. But you cannot do that while
you haven't answered the question.
Yes.
Mr. Danjuma, the question I ask is, if you make a promise, and you are not able to deliver, people will expect some form of explanation. Okay, this was what happened.
Go to the portal. No, they do not need. Are you with me? They do not need to make excuses then, because there was no breach, even in their own promise. They uploaded what people expected, or what the agents expected, was for them to upload the portal simultaneously. There's no place, not even in INEC rules or the Electoral Act, where the word simultaneously is used. Because if you do that, you're going to encourage, the announcement of results from different quarters, and this is going to create confusion.
Okay, then Juma, the whole idea, the IREF, they call it INEC Results Viewing Portal, isn't it?
Exactly.
The essence of having a viewing portal is to have kind of give some kind of confidence to the Nigerian people, to the electorate, that this is what you voted, and this is what we have, and that's what we are working with.
Exactly.
So that it gives you some kind of confidence that, the process is transparent, right?
Yes.
A lot of people are questioning the transparency of this process, and which is why others also have said, look, what we had at the polling units is not what we are seeing on the IREF, which is a contradiction. Don't you think that that's a dent on the credibility of an institution like INEC that a lot of people should see and have some level of confidence that this is an institution that is doing the bidding of Nigerians?
No, I don't see it that way. In the first place, excuse me, those who see the election as not being transparent certainly do not include the majority of Nigerians that elected, our president. Having said that, the issue of a dent on the image of INEC, or it's not so. There is no perfect election anywhere in the world. The whole essence of displaying the results at the portal is for you to see, compare notes, and once you find discrepancies, you take it up legally. It's simple.
All right, Mr. Danjuma.
Take it up legally.
Mr. Danjuma,
yes, but INEC is not a perfect commission. We have like the offsets we recorded in areas where we least expected to lose election. We have a lot of complaints as APC. That is in those areas too. Things did not go perfectly there, but the law is very clear. Even by previous judgments from Supreme Court, it's very clear. In as much as anomalies recorded in isolated polling units are not enough to affect the total result of the election. It is just okay.
All right, Mr. Danjuma, is this the final position of APC on this thing? They don't mind that these results were not uploaded. And the reason I ask this is because a lot of people are saying APC is taking this position because they have been declared the winner of the elections. So, and I'm asking this going forward because we're going to have the governorship on Saturday. If, for instance, there's this particular state you're thinking right now that you're going to win, and there's no upload of the results to the IREF, and you don't win that state, are you going to still say that it's okay that the results were not uploaded? Would that still be the position of APC?
You see, I don't know. You're just trying to commit me to the fact that these results were uploaded. I told you they were uploaded immediately after Professor Yakubu, announced.
Danjuma, the question is, would you be comfortable with a scenario such as she painted, where your party or your party lose in a state that it feels it has an upper hand and it feels that it should win the election in that state, and then there is no result on the RF or whatever, or if it comes later after a winner has been declared, would your party be
would it still be the position of your party?
No, certainly if we notice any irregularity and leading to our failure at any level of election, not even governorship, even if it is state assembly, we will go to court, we will go to the election tribunal. Certainly we're taking it, but we will not behave like these other political parties who are just trying to create confusion within the public opinion. The issue is you go through the process. There are procedures through which election results or even electoral procedures can be protested. You follow the result. You follow the procedure. That is the decency. In democracy, you don't just wake up and desire for yourself, ways and means, to protest election results.
Okay,
we will do that. We will protest it, but we'll do it within the ambience of the law.
Okay, are you bothered that going by INEC's own admission that there were flaws in the electoral process, that the victory of the APC probably will be short-lived eventually if the opponents or the opposition goes to the court with the evidence.
Yes, we are very confident that they have no evidence with them. We are very confident also that all the flaws, places where flaws are noticed, we are even against our parties. Because if we should bring forth, let Labour Party, for instance, bring forth the videos of electoral malpractices in Lagos, and let's see who loses once the election in Lagos is nullified. We will still remain at top of the table, and Labour Party will descend further down. So most of the irregularities, particularly the ones in Lagos and that is the southeastern part of the country, were against the APC and the APC candidate. But we are not contesting their right to take the protest to the election tribunal. But what we're saying is that we are confident we have won. We defeated them in the campaigns, we defeat them in the election, we're going to defeat them in the courts. There's no doubt about that. Notwithstanding the magnanimity of the president-elect, His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who has extended the embrace of one united family to them. But it's okay. They can still go ahead, but we won a free and fair election. To the fact that the upset, this is the first time, there has never been an election in Nigeria that carries this level of upsets. Yes, we had in 2015 where an incumbent president was was defeated in the presidential election, but it yet didn't a kind of record these upsets at different stages that we had. We had governors, incumbent governors losing their bids, for the Senate. And this is the first time money were not even used in the election because there was no money in the public.
All right. We have elections on Saturday.
Yes.
As governorship and state assembly elections. Yes. And we have all of these contests going up here and there. Yes. I mean, is the APC jittery?
We're not jittery. We are the most, the last time I was here, I told you that we were the most united political party and the most poised to win the elections. And that came to real. We are not jittery. Right now, they are rather, because they know they're not going to do well in the governorship elections. Because most of the sentiments that came for their parties, to support or where the votes they got in the presidential election emanated from will not be there in the governorship election. Because in governorship election, what you have in every state is indigene versus indigene. So it's a different ball game. It's not somebody coming maybe from Lagos contesting election in Kano, or from Kano contesting election in Lagos, or Anambra.
So you're saying there's no form of distraction?
No, we are not distracted. We are very focused. We're going to win more states than these political parties. They have nothing on ground. All they have on ground are emotions and sentiments that certainly will not hold at governorship level. Yes, you can attribute emotions and sentiments at presidential level, knowing fully well that the states you are talking to, the presidential candidate is not from that state. But in governorship, all the gubernatorial candidates are from that same state. So there is nothing you can say against any of them. So we are good to go.
Okay, Danjuma, looking at previous elections, Bola Ahmed Tinubu appears to, looking at the previous elections, he is the least popular among all the people that have won elections in the past. He won 12 states, and he scored 37% of the total votes, which makes him the least popular in terms of national appeal and all that. How will this impact on his governance or his administration?
His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu is an embodiment of national unity. And the issue of being least popular, I don't know what you mean by being least popular. He was the only candidate whose campaign trended on issue based and convictions, on issues relating to the polity. You see, this whole idea, what made this, election, looks like, views from opposition from different zones, was because the two major candidates simply trended on emotions and sentiments. And because Nigerians are easily conveyed along sentimental lines, you see, they went for them because they are either members of their geopolitical zones, they are tribesmen, or people who are from the same religious group with them. Only Bola Ahmed Tinubu His Excellency was, distinguished himself from sentiments. Despite their sentiment, you can look at the spread. Go back to previous elections. There hasn't been any presidential contestant that has garnered this kind of spread in a presidential election in Nigeria. Well, I can take that to the bank. Well, I'm not talking about lead votes state by state. I'm talking about achieving that number of percentages, national percentage. We call it, well, let's call it national political average. It's an endorsement of Nigerians from all, zones.
But Danjuma, going back to Ayuba's question, what he adding to what he was asking is, the president-elect won the election with a little over 8 million votes. Now, when you
put in terms of the
now when you put together the votes of the person who came second, Atiku Abubakar, over 6 million. You put that of the person who came third, Peter Obi, a little over 6 million. When you put that together, that's already over 12 million, which means that the people who voted for your candidate, the people who voted against your candidate are more than those who voted for your candidate. Does that bother your party?
It doesn't really bother us, because I can tell you that if they had even come together, it will not go that way. You know why? Very good. Both candidates, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, His Excellency former Vice President, and His Excellency Peter Obi, are carrying, sentiments that cannot come together. Never. You see, Peter Obi trended on four cardinal sentiments, and I will mention them to you. Peter Obi trended, number one, on the sentiment that at this age-long clamor for Igbo presidency. So we expect every Igbo man to be carried along that belt. Peter Obi trended on the Christian church's solidarity against the Muslim ticket. Of course, it is not every Christian that will go with that. Thank God at least many Christians voted for our candidates, notwithstanding. Peter Obi trended on the age-long northern Christian confrontation against the caliphate. We know that will not work for him. We know the limit of that. Thank God it didn't work. The final one he did, he trended on the southern youth restiveness, which we all know as harsh NSAS. You see, these sentiments have limited place it can go in terms of determining the outcome of a presidential election. So if you had brought Peter Obi and Atiku Abubakar together, of course, Atiku will not be the vice president, because he already exhausted his right to contest as Nigeria's vice president. He has had 8 years. He will be the president, and Peter Obi will be the vice president. And if that happens, most of these sentiments that goes with Peter Obi will not go for the ticket. So that is why we personally do not see them as bringing. Both of them could have, come together and defeated us.
Danjuma, listening to you, it's as though there was no controversy about the same faith ticket. When you talk about other parties or other political parties using sentiments and emotions and the rest of them, it's as though there was never a controversy about same faith ticket in Nigeria. Can the APC actually say or absolve itself from not riding on some of these religious or ethnic sentiments?
Yes,
as well?
APC never ruled on religious or ethnic sentiments. What really happened was that we simply, the issue of the single Muslim ticket was simply a coincidence that emanated from our political strategy. What we strategized upon was simple: how to garner the majority votes in Nigeria, knowing fully well that we have somebody in the person of Alhaji Atiku Abubakar to beat, particularly in the north. And we do know, take it or leave it, the north was the strength of our party. So that was just it. It has nothing to do with demeaning the Christian faith. Not at all.
But you said the calculation, the strategy is all about.
Yes.
Because this is like we are going back to the whole controversy.
The coincidence emanated from.
You said it's all about the strategy to win votes.
To win votes, exactly.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, and you are looking at the northern region.
Exactly.
Where you have a lot of voters.
Exactly.
You have, in fact, the northern region has the highest number of voters in the country, right? Which are predominantly of the Muslim faith, right? right? So, if you are anchoring your decision based on that, isn't that riding on religious sentiment?
No, because it is not because Shetima was a Muslim. Shetima represents every other tribe on that ticket, except that's from the north, except the Hausa Fulani. Are you with me? But the fact that he is a Muslim was just a coincidence. But he represents every other northern minority except the Hausa Fulani.
Exactly. So we're still back to the issue of having considerations for ethno-religious leanings.
No.
If you say he represents ethnic groups.
No, excuse me. You see, in politics, there are permutations, whether take it or leave it. That was why, in the first place, our party opted that power should be shifted to the south, knowing fully well that doing so will bring stability to the polity. Now, while you're shifting power to the south, you still need to sustain the confidence of the north.
So
how do you do that?
There's a reason for shifting the power to the south.
Exactly.
It's still out of the desire to kind of give some sense of belonging to other parts of the country, isn't it? Looking at the ethno-religious concerns and the rest of them, isn't it? So it's still within the same thing that we are talking about here. So looking at that, can the APC really say and accuse other political parties of not having such considerations? Since all that you have been explaining is the same as what others have considered too.
No. You see, it is one thing to ensure that in order to maintain balance, geopolitical balance, you bring in somebody from A or B zone. Is one thing.
Why is there a need for a balance? Why is there a need for a balance?
Of course, so that you can have political stability. What I'm saying here, once you have somebody on that ticket, it's a different thing altogether. To now begin to exhume religious differences as a means of campaigning. To now begin to explore or exploit, age-long ethnocentric differences between maybe, two religions or two ethnic groups within. I mean, that was what we never did that. After Shetima emerged as the running mate to His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, we went all out for issue-based campaign. But they did not see it that way. The PDP trended in the north mostly on the fact that he is Atiku Abubakar, he's your son, elect him. And like I told you, I had earlier enumerated Obi's own, trending on sentimental campaigns. I mean, we have evidence of videos in worship places.
We can go on, but other political parties will not agree.
I think we should move forward. Let's move forward.
Yes, please.
Elections are coming on Saturday. We saw the APC losing some of their strongholds, some of their states. They lost Katsina. The president is from Katsina State, is the leader of the APC. The governor of Katsina State is a member of the APC. They lost Yobe State. The Senate president is from there, Malabuni is from there, and then we saw them losing Gombe State as well.
State, where the party national chairman.
The party national chairman lost even from his polling unit before losing the state. Now, we have heard that there are some realliances that are going on ahead of the election on Saturday. Yes. What is the APC doing?
No, APC is going about it alone, but like you said, first let me thank you for attesting to the fact that it was not a one-way thing. It was a keenly contested election. Because if there has never been, go back to our national history.
Some people say it was a sign of rejection, though.
Well, sign of rejection in these areas. Yes, you win some, you lose some. It's just it. You win some, you lose some. You want to. I don't know why people are so comfortable with wanting to accept, the decision or the results where we lose as APC, but you contest areas where we won. I mean, if we are mature enough to accept that yes, we lost in some areas, then we should equally be respected, and allowed to hold on to our victories in areas where we won. The defeats you just mentioned are clear attestation to the fact that the elections were free and fair. But coming to your question about alliances, yes, you see, immediately after the reception of the return, what do you call it?
Certificate of return.
The certificate of return to His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He just went back to the drawing board to see, to make amends where there is need to be amend, and we're still working on them to ensure that we win all these states you just mentioned. That is, we retain them because they are our states originally. We retain them at the governorship election level. And all the same, I can assure you that these same political parties, particularly PDP and LP, will still be the ones to win after the elections. Yes, but my advice to them, to the political parties, let me give this advice because being a former national chairman of a political party, we should stop sending people who are novice, people who do not really have, grasp of the electoral rules and laws, to kind of to liaise with INEC. It's not good on the side of political parties. I mean, we should send people who are grounded in the management of political parties, to liaise on behalf of our candidates and our parties. Because, for instance, it just has no knowledge of political party management. No, I mean, I'm being
all right,
real.
let's move.
It's just a political office contestant. Yes.
Okay, moving forward, the candidate of your party has been announced the president-elect.
Alhamdulillah.
So, which areas is he going to start?
Wow. He said it over and over again. The first thing is to hit the ground running.
In which area?
Security. That is number one. It's key. Security. And he's already into it. Security. Yes, so, and the second thing is to keep running. But security of life and property is first of the essence at this point in time. And that is the focus of his presidency. Then after that, every other thing will join.
Are we going to witness delays in?
Certainly no delay. No, I mean, easy. I mean, we should. The truth of the matter is that we should give it to the outgoing president. He is not a politically minded individual like the president-elect. The president-elect has worked towards this political bridge building and relationship for over 40 years. I mean, even in sleep, even wake Asiwaju up, His Excellency, while sleeping, he will right there tell you, list numbers of all his ministers and his ambassadors because he has them. He has them already with him, and together we went to campaign with them. They too were there. Some of them even are governors.
So as we speak, you are saying that all the cabinet members for the next administration are already on ground.
They are known only to His Excellency the President.
So we are not going to see a repeat of what happened in 2015, where we didn't have cabinet members for 6 months.
No, certainly not. Certainly not, because His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu knows that we do not have that that liberty of time, to waste on this issue, particularly the issue that is at the center of his heart, which is security. For that reason, I want to assure you that Nigerians will see, the list of the cabinet members, in record time.
One group that was not particularly, in support of your candidate is the youth, and I know in his acceptance speech, that's your candidate, now the president-elect, he said to the youth that I hear you loud and clear. Are there some programs? Do you see him bringing youth into the cabinet, and then do you see him coming up with some programs that will be targeted towards the youth?
Exactly. I see him doing all that. The truth of the matter is that think of just one policy. The idea that he brought in the 80 pages manifesto, which we campaigned upon, that there would be student loan. Who was he talking to? He was talking to the youth. Obi doesn't have such in his program. Atiku doesn't have such in his own program either. So the truth is that there is no candidate that has the youth in the center of his perception for national development like the president-elect. This is certainly going to be a youthful administration that is led by an elder with wisdom. Certainly. There is no, and talking about rejection by the youths, you see, I won't take that from anyone. It's a section of the Nigerian youths. In the north, most of our votes in the north for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu came from the youths. So, and that was why I said that part of the sentiment that the LP candidate trended upon was that phenomenon of restiveness of the southern youths. Fine, you call it NSAS. There's a disconnect between NSAS as it is in Lagos and what you have as the youthful drive in northern Nigeria completely. Most of our votes, they were there for us as polling agents. They were there for us. They were our canvassers. I mean, imagine what happened before the general election when this money swap policy came in. The youths were those who, when they took time to go into the rural areas in the north, particularly the northwest, to further a kind of enlist the people's understanding that, look, please do not, leave our candidate because of this. Okay. And ABC will be done immediately after the election.
So, talking about security, one other issue that has lingered is the issue of having some kind of arrangement for police at the subnational level. Some will call it community policing or state policing or whatever. What is Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu going to do about the issue of policing, effective policing?
If this issue, because if I have to sit down and begin to tell the details, it will take too much of our time. It is contained in our manifesto that effective policing will be ensured. Even the police command will be structured in a way it will become more active, and more relative to the communities, because that is what matters. What matters here is not a situation whereby you bring maybe, because police cannot succeed without the cooperation of the community where they are meant to secure. And not only police, you have several other security agents that are supposed to work with the police. So the president-elect has put it as a kind of drafted down a program that will ensure interagency cooperation and also police community relation. Very perfect one that will ensure effective or timely nipping crimes in the bud.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Because of time, we would have to end our discussion at this point. We do appreciate it. We look forward to having you again on the program.
Thank you.
Yes, our guest has been a member of the All Progressives Congress, Danjuma Mohammed, who is talking to us about all that have trailed the presidential and National Assembly election results as we have them, and the plans of the APC ahead of the next administration. Thank you again.
You're welcome.
Well, that's our show for today. In case you've missed, you can always catch across all our social media platforms and also on our YouTube live stream. I am Ayuba Ilya.
Thank you for welcoming us into your homes this morning. Join us same time, same station tomorrow. My name is Stella Iyaji, and do have a very pleasant day.